Hey guys, I'm sorry about the glare. The glare in my glasses. Guys, today is gonna be a informative one. Recently, I had some people close to me go through a lot of medical stuff that has just made me really think about how far we've come with modern medicine and how many lives it's saved, how modern medicine has saved many, many lives. And it just made me think, like, what were they doing in the past? Like, before we invented or discovered all of these things or rediscovered them, because nothing new under the sun. What were we doing? Have you ever heard about like an ancient influenza, the Black Plague, for example? They didn't really know what they were doing. The plague doctors used to stuff those tubes full of flowers because they fully believed that bad smells were what carried the disease. This worked for the plague doctors not because of the flowers, but because their entire bodies were covered when they were dealing with patients, so they survived. Like a very early form of PPE gear. It just made me think, what other like really weird cures or treatments or very bad cures or treatment have humans used throughout the years? And so we have insane ancient medical practices. And you have me, your host, Rio. And you know that when I get thinking, it's trouble. Once I start thinking about something, it's trouble because I'm going to make a video about it. I'm going to post it to a YouTube channel. You're going to watch it, and then you're going to start thinking about it. Now we share a brain. Now we share a thought. Now, okay. Going down this rabbit hole of researching different medical practices from the past has led me to two conclusions. Number one, the placebo effect is very, very real. Some of the things that they were doing, you're just like, bro, you know that didn't work, bro. Like, that has never worked on anybody. Like, there's no chance that you did that on any person ever and it worked. For you to still think that it works now. What are you doing? And another thing is that humans really were kind of just winging it and blind faithing it through illnesses and sickness and ailments for a huge chunk of human history. Most of what we had known was just false. Alright, so without further introduction, let us begin. First up is mouse toothpaste. Saying that out loud, toothpaste, you kind of think that it's like an animal testing thing. You know how they'll say like, oh, it tested on animals, and you picture like them washing the monkey with the shampoo or whatever. When I say mouth toothpaste, I think that they have invented a tiny little tube of toothpaste and a tiny little brush, and they're brushing his teeny little mouth teeth. But no, something much worse happens to the mouse, bro. In ancient Egypt, they would primarily use mouth paste as a way to cure toothaches, and actually it was a relatively common treatment for a lot of different ailments in ancient Egypt. Now, when I say mouse paste, you sort of get a better idea of what I mean. This is not a toothpaste made for mice. This is a toothpaste made out of mice. The simple solution was to find a mouse, make sure that it was dead, and shove it in your mouth. The belief behind this treatment was that the pitiful and miserable spirit of the rat would take away your pain and suffering. The essence of the miserable little rat. His essence would take away the pain. However, in other times, the rat or the mouse was taken and ground up with different herbs and spices and little ingredients or whatever to create the paste, which would then be plastered over the painful area inside of your mouth, the mouse paste in your mouth. And this sounds 100% horrific, but if you've ever had a really bad toothache, like, think about ancient times. Like, think about how desperate they would have been for any sort of relief from that. You know, like, aside from alcohol, because I'm sure they use that as like a pain medication and to knock people out. But aside from that, just imagine being so desperate for pain relief that you're like, I will grind up a mouse. I will grind up a mouse into a paste, dude. Like, oh man. Okay. So let's continue on the path of like mouth related treatments. Have you ever met somebody that just had like incredibly bad breath? Like, no matter what they did, you know, their breath just smelled bad. That's a condition called halitosis, right? And it's actually an ancient condition. People have been suffering from it for a very long time. So far back, in fact, that we have a cure coming in from ancient China. In ancient China, if you had halitosis, you would have been prescribed something that, in my mind, would have probably made it worse. But I'm not the ancient Chinese, you know? In 5th century China, doctors swore by the gargling of elephant bile. Yes, elephant digestive fluid. Have you ever thrown up on an empty stomach and it's just yellow liquid? That's what they were prescribing them from an elephant to gargle for bad breath? When did they skip over? Okay, because China has a lot of different tea, right? China has a huge amount of teas. When did they skip over like a very fragrant tea, or like a very just fuck it, just chew the tea ingredients? When did they give up on that? Like, when was it clear that that wasn't gonna work and that they had to resort to elephant bile? Can you imagine the elephant all nervous in the corner? Because he knows. He's like, with his nose, they're gonna make me throw up soon. They want my bile. I'm an elephant. So that's what they had those patients gargling from the elephant. Literal stomach fluid. Patients were ordered to gargle this remedy for their halitosis, and other times the elephant bile would be dried down and smashed into a powder and put in capsules. It was used to treat the blindness caused by glaucoma. See, even if this worked, just let me fucking be blind, bro. Like, it really seems like, now that I'm rereading what I have written down, I didn't even realize this, but it seems like a lot of things were centered around the mouth and like things that we couldn't do about like our conditions with the mouth and whatever, because we're back here at it again. I knew a couple kids when I was younger that stuttered. Stuttering is not necessarily uncommon, you know. I've had a couple family members that stuttered as well. I don't think I ever struggled with a stutter. I know many of you probably did or knew someone who stuttered. If you or your loved one ever stuttered, just be glad that you or them were born in the modern age, because as close back as the 1800s, they would have been cooked. Doctors in the 1800s were stumped for a treatment for stuttering until the Prussian surgeon J.F. Dieffenbach, hopefully I pronounced that correctly, he came up with this treatment called hemioglossectomy. And what that means is that he would cut off half of your tongue. He would cut half your tongue out your mouth, believing that this would somehow cure your stutter. Oh, he won't stop stuttering? Well, just take his tongue. He won't say anything, actually. He won't say a word, dude. What? And of course, this was done without anesthesia. Not only was this not an effective treatment, it was fatal. Many who had this done to them straight up just bled out. Like, you just cut half of the dude's tongue off. This procedure, the hemiglossectomy, is still used. However, it is used to treat things like oral cancer, and of course it is done under anesthesia, under very careful circumstance. Each of these is just like funnier and funnier to me, because I'm just like, bro, okay, it's like I understand the thought process behind some of it, but then like it just goes completely left, and I'm like, okay, no, you just were hoping that you discovered something. Like you probably didn't even think it was gonna work, but you were like, well, maybe if I try it. Maybe and then if it does work, I go down in the history books. That's literally what I'm picturing, bro. Like, moving on. During my research for this, I found out that the different blood types that we have, like A, B, A positive, B negative, O positive, whatever, they all got discovered in 1901. Previous to that, we did not know about blood types, so the discovery of different blood types happened in 1901, right? Before this, they did not know of the fact that we have different blood types, so blood transfusions were disastrous most of the time. Like, if you got into a situation where you lost a lot of blood, just say goodbye, because most of the time they couldn't do anything for you. Even if they tried the blood transfusion without the knowledge of what they were doing, it would result in death of the patient. Not only were we unaware of the different blood types, we had no way of effectively preventing the blood from coagulating in between, like, the taking it from the one patient and giving it to the other before the transfusion, unless you did it like immediately. Unless it was like immediate, then it didn't work. Now, due to these issues that I mentioned to you, right, not knowing the different blood types, not having a way to stop it from coagulating, not having a way to not kill the person donating the blood if they did it immediately, because that often resulted in the death of whoever gave blood, not the person. Like, how do I explain this? Okay, for example, there were during the time when this was being tried out, a guy did it with a sheep, and the sheep died. He gave the sheep's blood to a mentally ill person because he said that it would cure him. He retained his mental illness, mind you, but the sheep died while he was doing the transfusion. Like, it was just very messy back then. So they just didn't have ways of controlling this situation, this particular situation, right? Scientists at the time thought that, why? Like, it's just like, did you even care? They thought that milk would make a good substitution for blood. Just take me out to the back, bro, like Old Yeller, bro. They believed that milk would make the perfect blood substitution. It was believed that the oily and fatty particles in the milk would somehow replace the white blood cells. They would become white blood cells through some sort of transmutation, some sort of magic would happen. And they would become white blood cells. And probably as some sort of cosmic joke, the first man that they tried this on, it worked. They gave him 12 ounces of milk in his bloodstream, and not only did he survive, he seemed to respond well to it. Similarly, the second patient for them to try this on was also successful. Anyways, the next 5 people that they tried this on had horrible milk deaths. They all died a horrible milk death. And probably just out of desperation, this treatment actually became relatively common and popular during like the Victorian tuberculosis era of early America. And most people who got this treatment, it went as expected. You inject them with milk, they go into a coma and die. Like, most people went comatose and lost their life. And for those people that survived, they would report extreme chest pain, involuntary eye movement, as well as severe headaches. And all of that sounds right for being injected with cow's milk. As I'm reading these things though that I've written down, I'm realizing that this is why snake oil salesmen were able to like travel from town to town selling little like, and also snake oil used to be a fake cure as well, but I didn't include that on the list because it's literally in the namesake. I imagine that most people know about that. Anyways, it kind of makes sense how they were able to just go from town to town, like selling whatever miracle cure that they had decided on this time, because people in the past, like before the advance of Western and Eastern medicine to like include science and proof and evidence and stuff and like actually work towards cures and whatever, people were so desperate for any sort of like relief from their pain or ending their pain or ending whatever sickness they were going through, or just to like survive, because you gotta remember, before we had vaccines, before we had certain stuff, diseases were deadly. Like before we had antibiotics or before we had like certain things that we have now, diseases would kill you. Like, it wasn't like, oh, you'll be sick for a week if you had the common cold. If you had the common cold, caveman era, bro, you're done. Like, your whole clan, you, Grog, Grelda, you're all done. So it kind of makes sense, because just looking at these cures that they were doing, mouse paste. I crushed a mouse into a paste, and here, guys, like, people were so desperate for anything to help them that I understand how somebody coming through your town and like you've got a sick uncle or something. Your uncle, he's been sick since he was 14, and you guys have to drag him around on your back or whatever the hell. And this guy wheels into town and he's like, my legs were like that too, and I drank this blue cream. Drink my blue cream and you too will, whatever. I see it. I understand it now. Let's move on though. Rheumatism is a disorder that causes swelling and inflammation in the joints, and it can be very uncomfortable and painful. It also can cause like full loss of motion in the area that's experiencing the swelling and inflammation. Before modern medicines, people's remedies for this condition could definitely make your stomach turn, bro. In 1800s Australia, a cure that would be used for rheumatism during like the whaling, because this is like during the whaling century when we would catch whales and use their bones and their blubber and all types of stuff, right? So the whaling industry was still in. It was a common cure for rheumatism was to basically have a sleepover in the rotting carcass of a whale. Doctors would recommend their patients to enter the body of a decomposing whale and stay there for 20 to 30 hours. This is, of course, with the occasional break in between. For some well, I'll tell you the reason in a second. It was thought that doing this would give them up to 12 months of relief, an entire year's worth of relief from their disorder of rheumatism. The thought process behind this was that the heat and gases released by the decomposing flesh of the whale would create a sweat box of healing compounds. How? You're inside of a zombie. It's like, have you ever seen that scene from The Walking Dead where I played the game where you have to rub the stuff on yourself so that you can walk through the crowd? Why do I have to go into the ocean? Am I hiding from other whales? What am I doing? Am I the Little Mermaid? Can I call Sebastian? Will I kiss the girl? It just can go on. So, obviously, this did not work, and you would stink terribly afterwards because you just spent an entire day inside of a corpse. Patients would describe ghastly blasts of disgusting air and gases, as well as fetid bubbles of rot surrounding them while they were inside of it, which, what did you expect, buddy? Now we finally come to our last treatment for the day. So before the development of like mouth-to-mouth resuscitation, when somebody would drown, people had to get pretty creative for how to wake up an unconscious person. You know, you can only slap somebody so many times before you realize it's probably not going to wake them up. In Europe, they were getting very strange with their methods. In 16th and 17th century England, tobacco was seen as a sort of cure-all medicine. Right? It could do anything. Like over 50 things they claimed that tobacco could help them with. The smoke especially was thought to be the cure of many things, including resuscitating someone. And you're probably thinking, oh, so they were blowing smoke into the person's mouth instead of fresh air because they thought that that would somehow resuscitate them faster. No, my child, no. And I understand why you thought that, and I love that. I love that innocent, sweet side of you that thought that. But no. Because if you were paying attention to the beginning of this particular method, I told you that mouth-to-mouth has not been developed yet. They aren't doing any sort of mouth-to-mouth with smoke or not. They got the smoke in through the back, let's just say. The tobacco smoke enema. God. This was used to resuscitate somebody who had fell into the River Thames. So if you fell into the River Thames, they would literally blow smoke up your ass to wake you up, bro. Give me a break. The cure first came about when a sailor came across a man and his wife, the wife having lost consciousness, and for reasons unknown, the sailor gave the man his pipe, and maybe he'd seen a man fall into the water at sea and this had worked and he thought, oh, I'll share my sailor knowledge and I'll help him. Gave the man the pipe. He said, insert it and blow as hard as you can. Now, the thought process behind this cure was that the smoke would both dry and warm the person's insides. Now, why would you want your insides to be dry at all in any respect? I don't know. Because all of it has to be liquid. All. So what does that even mean? Now, this cure became so popular that a humane society at the time would place tobacco enema kits at the sides of the river and would offer large rewards to anyone who could resuscitate somebody using one of those blow some smoke up your ass kits. And like I said, tobacco was seen as a cure-all, so once it was developed to cure unconsciousness, like help somebody come back from drowning, it was used to treat many other things. The tobacco enema went on to treat cholera, it went on to treat headache, it went on to treat hernias and stomach cramps. Any reason that they could find to put some smoke inside of your butt, they would do it, okay? Now, to determine the worst one, I'm going to play a game, process of elimination. And I'll basically, because I've done 6, I'll group them into groups of 2. And then I'll see which one I would rather do, like which one I would do over the other one, and then the one that I did not pick will move on to the next round, and this is how we'll find out which one is the very worst, actually. First, we got mouse paste versus elephant bile Listerine. Mouse toothpaste versus elephant bile Listerine. Oh my god, bro. Just the thought of the poor little mouse, bro. God. And I'm not gonna lie, Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I feel like even in ancient China, bro, they had to know that it was low-key crazy. So they probably like put like some little herbs in there, just something to make it not taste like bile. Like they probably had something to make it a little better. Plus I feel like you have less chance of disease that way. I feel like a crushed mouse is just like a heart, like there's just so much disease, and plus like you're crushing up all the shit in the guts and stuff, and it's just all in there. Like fuck. Okay, so I would choose elephant bile, so mouse toothpaste. We'll get to move on to the next round. Now we've got either cut your tongue off because you have a stutter, or have your blood get transfused with milk. You know what, bro? Because okay, here's why I would rather have the milk, because having my tongue, like half of your tongue cut off, you, first of all, no anesthesia, so they're just like holding you down. Like there's like 4 guys and you're like, they're holding you down and they're taking your fucking tongue out and cutting you off, because who's gonna sit there calmly and let their tongue be cut off? You know what I mean? Like, no, there's a whole bunch of torture involved in that. So I'd probably rather just, because the milk, okay, I could be like those 2 lucky guys and I might be one who walks out of there like, give me more milk, 24 ounces next time please, you know. But also I could end up in a coma, but I feel like that's less painful than getting your tongue sliced off, bro. I'm gonna have to go milk. I'm going milk blood transfusion. So hemiglossectomy, you move on to the next round. Oh god. So now we got whale carcass versus smoke enema. I'm not gonna lie, bro. Give me the smoke enema. The idea of getting inside of a gigantic like whale carcass and it's all like, it's literally rotting, bro, so it stinks, and I bet like you walk and like your foot like goes through the meat because it's all soft and it's fucking disgusting. No, just blow the smoke up my ass, dude, because yeah, it's gonna be hot smoke in my ass. Like, it's not gonna feel good, but like I would just rather do that than have to get inside of a whale for, and not even for like 5 minutes, 30 hours inside of a like a giant, like a house made of rotting flesh. No. So the goddamn whale moves on to the second round. So now we have 3 to choose from, and the way that I'm gonna do this is I'm gonna choose the one that I would rather do out of all 3 of these, and then the last 2, so that we can find out the very worst one, right? Okay. So we've got the whale, mouse toothpaste, and cut your tongue off. Oh, damn. None of these are helping me. Okay, out of all of these, I'm just gonna go mouth toothpaste. I would rather do mouth toothpaste than have my tongue cut off or get inside of a giant rotting whale. Okay. Would I? Yes. I'd do that before I'd do that before I'd get in a whale, or before I'd let my tongue get cut off. I would put mouse paste on a tooth that hurt. God, I don't want to, but I would do it before the other things. Yeah, I would rather do the mouse paste than have my tongue cut off or get into a whale. And guys, I'm not gonna lie, I think I'm gonna leave this one for you. What would you rather do? Would you rather have a hemiglossectomy because you had a stutter, cut off half your tongue, no anesthesia? Or would you rather fucking lay down in a dead whale for over a day? For more than 24 hours? Let me know in the comments below. And if you like this video, like it. If you like me in general, subscribe. If you like the channel, subscribe. If you think that more people should watch this video, like it. If your name starts with an A, then $1 million to you tomorrow. Yeah, okay. Bye.